going to be looking at one training session with George. George is a BLM Mustang who has not had a ton of handling. He's halter broke in this video, and he has had his front feet picked up, but we are having trouble picking up his back feet. So I'm going to show you how I start to approach picking up the back feet. I'm going to place myself at his shoulder with my lead rope along my outside hand, and I just want to run my hand down his body. And you can see how as soon as I start moving towards his back end, he starts yielding his hindquarters and evading that touch. So I start where he's comfortable on his shoulders and I rub my way back. Now you'll notice I'm keeping my front feet, or my feet, next to his front feet because of that right there. I want to keep my knees from getting kicked when he reflexively moves his back end. I've already used a flag stick, which I'll show you in another video, to desensitize his back leg some. But then I'm just going in with my hand to do that same thing. So I'm starting at his hip, like I showed you there, until he stops moving away. Now, since he started kicking, I'm actually going to yield his hindquarters a little bit and make sure he's comfortable moving them away from me on command. Because anytime I have a kicky horse, I want to make sure that they are going to move away from me, not towards me if they get concerned. I want him to know he can move his hips away rather than feeling cornered and kicking into fight mode, because fight mode can hurt me badly if he decides to start kicking. Now, there's a difference between reflexive kicking and kicking at you. That kick up you saw there was reflexive, but I'm just doing my due diligence here to keep myself safe, knowing that he's respectfully going to move away from me. Now in this angle, I'm starting to move myself back onto his shoulders again. I'm rubbing on his shoulders and his face. I'm waiting for him to relax because you saw he was trying to block me there. You can see there's just some tension in his body. He's not real comfortable with me on his right side yet. That's why I took the time over there to just spend a minute. There I was kind of pushing his shoulders away to see if he would yield to me, which he did ever so slightly, so then I rub it away. I'm moving his hips over this way, and then I go in and say, okay, that's enough, I'm going to rub on you now. And now when he moves away, I keep my hand there to help him learn, hey, when my hand's on your body, you're not going to move away. It's really important for the horses to learn the difference between when they're supposed to move away and when they're supposed to stand still, because both are really important. If your horse always moves away from you, every time you try to touch him, you're never going to be able to saddle or get on the mounting block or anything. But if your horse doesn't move away from you when you ask, that can be a major safety issue. So he already knows how to pick up his front feet, but because I did all that moving away, he's a little bit loosey-goosey and moving all over the place. So I'm starting with his front foot that he already understands to get him back into the idea of standing still and, hey, I want to pick up your feet. Then after that, he gets a little nervous because I stick around and there's something over there, so I rub on him and then I release. I offer him the palm of my hand there. I'm not feeding him treats, but I like to give him the chance to touch my hand to kind of check in. As he gets more confident standing still, then I'll move down his side again and rub on him. I'm talking to someone here as well that's working out in the barn. And I'm just showing you this because I want to show you that this is an uncut training session, so you can see how it's not entirely linear. It's easy to get caught up in how-to videos where your horse training is just super linear and you're only working on one thing. But a lot of times we kind of move in and out of exercise because it's about that balance. So I'm working my way down his back leg here again, and I found a new threshold. I need to shorten my rope because it was too long there and I would have put myself in the kicking zone had he been pushing on me. The fact that I worked on the hindquarter yielding made it so that when he did get nervous, he moved away, which is the safest thing he can do. I just start back at the shoulder again, and then I'm going to start working my way back once he relaxes. Here his head is kind of up, so I take that and I'm going to move him around and loosen his feet back up. I like to move the horses around and loosen their feet back up from time to time because it's good for them to get moving because they'll get a little stuck. And I know we want him to stand still, but we want him to stand relaxed, not frozen, because a frozen horse is ready to blow. And I don't want to wait till I'm standing right on his hip with my face down by his hock before he blows up. I want him relaxed when I go into that position. So you see how I start to work my way back down his hip again, slowly but surely. And I'm pushing until I find his threshold of where he's comfortable. And I want to get out of there right at the edge of that. So right there I go, okay, did you see him shift? So then I move back up to his shoulder. I offer him my hand. I say, good boy, here's your release. Then I'm going to move myself back there again. And I like how he's standing still here. So I'm not going to move him out because he's relaxed. We stayed under threshold. There he's checking in and saying, hey, I'm not super comfortable. When I notice, because it takes me a minute because I've got my back to him, I offer him my hand, let him sniff it. And then I should either get out of there or rub on his shoulder. So I'm going to go back and rub on him again. I'm checking in with him that time. And now I'm going to say, okay, good job. Checking in again. Good boy. And then I'm going to rub on his shoulder and work back there again. As long as he's comfortable, I'll keep working in and out of that zone to get him more comfortable. And you see I get a little bit further down. And then I go, okay, I'm going to start over. I don't get greedy. Well, I did get greedy. And that's okay. I'm just going to follow through. I keep my hand on that hip when he moves away. And then when he stops moving, I get out of there and start at the shoulder again. I've got some split attention here. I'm talking to someone else in the barn. That's part of what's happening here. But then I just go back into his hip. And when he moves, I follow him as best as I can so that he's not getting a release from that pressure by moving away. So you see how I keep my hand there, but I'm keeping my body safely up by his shoulders. He's checking in and saying, hey, he accidentally ran into my hand there and that kind of startled him, but he comes right back. I'm going to hang out there for a second, and then I move back to his shoulder, back to his hip. It's in and out of that comfort zone of his. I'm playing with the edge of it and saying, hey, a little bit further. Right there he was like, eh. And I go a little bit further. He says, eh. We saw that time he picked up his foot and then just set it down. That was a lot less dramatic. You see how he relaxed right back down. He picks it up and sets it down again, but it's getting less it's still a reflex, but it's getting less snappy. I check in with him. And it's really just going up to his shoulder, down to his hocks, over and over again. And I'm only releasing when he's standing still. So I'm releasing, what I mean by release, is I'm moving my hand from his hock back up to his neck or his shoulder, his comfort zone. Now, if he was more comfortable somewhere else, I would move to there for his release. But for him, the shoulder is a good place to be. And most horses, that seems to be the case. I can keep him from walking off from the shoulder. I can push him away into a walk off from the shoulder. I can keep him from kicking. So there he was like, I have too much lead rope here. It should be about 3 feet shorter, but I'm not managing that well in this clip. But because he's moving away, I'm still in a safe place because mentally he's shifting away, not towards me. The reason why I would want my rope to be shorter is because if he were to shift his hindquarters towards me and go into actually trying to kick me, I would need to be able to pull his head towards me. Because if you pull their head towards you, their hip moves away. If their hip goes towards you, their head goes away. And you can see how all through this whole session here, his head is tipped, kind of wrapped around towards me most of the time. Right there, he's looking off into the distance as I'm kind of moving down his gaskin there. And you see he's starting to relax. There he tips his head back towards me. I move back to his shoulder, and you can see how he's starting to breathe out. He's opening up his throat latch. And as I start to move closer back there he wraps around towards me as he gets uncomfortable. And that's the point that I wanted to emphasize, is that when he gets uncomfortable, he's checking in, because I taught him to touch my hand when he's not feeling good. Here's a little sneeze. When he's feeling uncomfortable, he touches my hand. That way he can kind of tell me, hey, rather than kicking to say, hey, he can kind of look at me. And there I'm getting distracted again. You know, horse training is a lot. You have to spend a lot of time with them. And this is my pet horse, so I'm having to do this in between moments. And that's the thing, is I want to show you these 10-minute sessions. And I really like there how he finally took a breath out and just said, all right. So we're going to end that session there. Remember, a 10-minute session here and there, you can work on a lot. It doesn't have to be hyper-focused as to he's only going to stand still today. Make sure you're moving your horse, sensitizing and desensitizing, and take those 10 minutes anywhere you can because it makes all the difference in the world to these Mustangs.